All right. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited today to have Dr. Theodoro here to tell us about the All of Us research program that's going on. And I'm going to go ahead and let him take it over. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. Um, say a little bit about who I am. Again, my name's Andy Theodoro, professor and vice chair of the pediatrics department at the U of A over at Diamond Children's. I do pediatric critical care when I practice, and I still do. I'll be on this weekend. And I've been here in Tucson, part of the U of A and Banner under all kinds of names, right? For the past almost 33 years. As a matter of fact, some of you may know Dr. Sydney Rice. She was actually one of my residents when I first got here. She was a chief resident. So been here a long time. And I had the honor of joining this program from the very beginning. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the All of Us research program. I'll go through the program. We'll go over what it's about. And there we go. And I'll take questions at the end. And I'm not going to be watching. Let me see. Well, maybe I can. I'll try to keep tabs of the chat, but I might not be able to keep up. So if somebody, I don't know.
I'll keep an eye on it for you.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
let me
Yeah,
do something there. Right now, you only see the slides, correct? You don't see the chat box?
correct.
Okay, perfect. So if there's something there I should know about, let me know. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get started and chat about the program. And
Awesome.
let's see if it wants to click. There we go. So what is the program? So the All of Us research program, it started actually back during the Obama years, and it was the largest NIH research program ever, with just this amazing plan to gather data from at least 1 million people living in the United States, with the goal of accelerating research in order to improve health. And to do that by taking into account all the various lifestyles and socioeconomics and environmental factors, as well as biology, that actually lead to our health and wellness. And it was part of a bigger goal to basically advance precision medicine. You may have heard the terms precision medicine. You may have heard the terms personalized medicine. The difference, personalized medicine is what's good for you. That's personal, which is a part of this concept. Precision medicine is overall big picture. How do we do the right thing for the right person at the right time? That's precision medicine. So how do we do this? Sorry, I got to get the picture out of the way here. So we aren't just our biology. We aren't just our genetics. You know, they asked the question, is this nurture or nature? And the answer is yes to both. We are a combination of who we are biologically, but we are also impacted by our lifestyle, our environment, how we live, how we eat, how we exercise. So precision medicine is the science that takes all of that into account. And you may want to say, well, of course, but the reality is that's not how healthcare has been. Traditionally, science of medicine has been one size fits all. So this is a radical shift on what we do. So the mission of the All of Us research program is to accelerate healthcare research, allowing us to individualize that prevention, treatment, and overall care. And so how is this going to happen? And by the way, I keep saying all of us. And the reason why you'll hear it, it's in the name and you'll hear it come repeatedly, because healthcare research and delivery has traditionally been based on assuming we are all the same. Research has been done on a typical group of people, usually around academic medical centers, usually at least middle class, if not upper middle class. And they do research and they say, okay, that result is supposed to work for all of us. And that's just not true. So how do we get to this mission? Well, it starts off with nurturing partnerships. And that includes partnering with the over 1 million people that we plan to enroll into the program. And those 1 million people, by design, are going to reflect who we are across the country. We need to have a representation of all of us. And then you take that variety, that diversity of people, and you collect data. And to get the largest, most diverse data set ever in the history of healthcare, and use that to then catalyze an ecosystem of researchers and those that fund research so that we can make those discoveries. Build the relationships, build the data, and then nurture the scientists that can come up with those results. So one thing that I really was impressed when I first started in the program was this giant project actually was built on core values. You know, we don't often talk about core values when we talk about research in healthcare. We talk about, you know, what is the goal of the research and how are you collecting data and how are you analyzing data. We don't often talk about core values, but the All of Us research program started with those core values. So what are they? Number one, it's only going to work if the participation is open to everyone. Participants have to reflect the rich diversity that exists in our country, all across the country. And this is important and also very different than most research. The participants are partners. There's an exchange of information back and forth. Traditionally, research just collects data, and once it's collected, the individual's out of the picture. That's not the goal here. The goal is that it remains back and forth. There has to be trust that's built through being transparent. Everything the program does is transparent to those that participate in the program. We'll talk more about that. Participants have access to their information. It's not often that once somebody is involved with a research project, they actually get information back. In this program, there's an app. I have an app. I myself am enrolled in the program. I can look at information. I can look up stuff through the app, including my own information. The data is accessed broadly for research purposes. We'll talk about how that data is protected, but all this giant batch of data has to be made available to scientists if it's going to have any meaning at all. And this next one's really important. Security and privacy has to be of highest importance, because otherwise, who's going to participate? And we'll talk a little bit more as we go. The program has to be a catalyst for positive change. As the program moves along, and we're several years into it now, we had to see actual results, and we have seen actual results, and we'll talk about that. So these are the core values of the program. So what kind of stuff are we going to find out? What kind of stuff did we hope to find out? Here's just snippets, and I'll go into more of the research later. How do you prevent chronic pain, which we know affects over 50 million people across the US. Chronic pain is a big deal. How do we deal with that? We're not doing a great job with standard science right now. How do we deal with dementia, identifying or slowing? How about how do you deal with pain and yet avoid addiction? I mean, these are questions that come up. Diabetes, such a big issue. Not only how do we treat it better, how is there a way to prevent diabetes altogether? Cancer, there's so much work being done with cancer that this could accelerate. And uh, uh, at the bottom there, you see sustainable interventions that may support health equity. This is a big issue, and you'll see me come back to this periodically. Healthcare is really not delivered equally throughout the country. And that's both on diagnostic and treatment and access. There's multiple components. And one of the goals, of this program is to really, address health equity and see how we can, make that fix that issue. So I kind of alluded to it, but how is the program innovative? So first of all, having a database built on 1 million people is unheard of. Even the now famous Framingham study, which started many years ago, which was one of the longest longitudinal studies prior to this, didn't have the goal of 1 million participants being involved, and for that 1 million people to be diverse, not just by like ethnic background or socioeconomic status, but also geographically, medically. It's interesting. People tend to study a disease by looking at people that have that disease. That's a very focused approach. How about if you studied a disease by actually mining data in 1 million people and see what else you can find out? Maybe someone doesn't have the disease, but has a propensity for it. Maybe you find something more. And the longitudinal diversity of data types collected longitudinally. Can you imagine if you have a family, could be a child, parents, grandparents, that have data including their genetics, their environment, their behaviors, their diets, their medications, and you track that over time, 5, 10, 20 years, and then analyze the health and wellness and what you could discover. Just the potential is amazing. It hasn't really been done to this degree before. And this concept of participants as partners, again, we have people that are not scientists. They're not administrators in the program. They're people that have just signed up to be participants. And we have them in the governance of the program. We have them in the scientific areas. We put them at various areas of the program to advise us as a study participant what's important to you. And we go back and forth. That way we get better. We get actually more relevant information. And the concept that it's a resource for all, creating this database and then allowing investigators of all levels to access with appropriate access reviews and appropriate tools. So all that stuff together makes it a very innovative and unique program. So what's involved with the how does what does somebody go through when they are enrolled? Well, the consenting process is a big deal because it's full transparency, and we want people to be very clear as to what the program is. The consenting can happen in person. It can happen online. It can happen in Spanish. And there's an interactive way it can happen. And the authorization is not just to participate in the study by having your blood drawn or a urine sample or a cheek swab for genetics, but it's also a consent for the medical record. So the medical record, components of the medical record will continuously feed into the database. The and then so we need consent for that. And also, if somebody wants to get back information, and the information you can get back is variable, including genetics and some other stuff, you need to consent to get that back. And we can talk a little bit about that later if we have time. After consenting, there's surveys. There are health surveys, lifestyle surveys, emotional health surveys, stuff that can go into the database. Keep in mind that everything is de-identified. The data goes in, but your identities are protected. So, and we'll talk about how protected they are. So it's, but the data goes in, and there's also surveys that come at a later date. So it's not just when you first sign up. Somebody may come up with another survey. Oh, there's more information we can add to this giant database, and more surveys go out periodically. There's physical measurements, typical stuff like blood pressure, height, weight, body, the BMI index, hip circumference, waist circumference. These are just standard body measurements go in. A sample, either blood or saliva, urine. And now the latest is wearables. Data from Fitbit and other devices will get fed in. So can you imagine, you've got all this data, you got lifestyle surveys, physical measurements, the biosamples, and wearable data going into a giant database. The data is housed at Vanderbilt, giant data center, and the biospecimens are at Mayo Rochester, giant biobank. So this is the process. So why do it? So you're thinking, okay, I'm taking the time. I'm going to have all my data and all that. What's in it for a participant? Well, first and foremost, it's the opportunity to improve the health and wellness of future generations. You can imagine what can be learned from a database this large. It's participating in really changing healthcare. You can learn about your own healthcare because, like I said, it's interactive. Any test done on you, you can have access to on your app if you want it. You get back the research that's being done. You can follow, you can see the research projects that have come out. And this next one is interesting, an opportunity to ensure that your community is included. There's a group of people called the UBR, underrepresented in biomedical research. I don't know where any of you are right now. If you look around, if you think either based on who you are, who your family is, what you might have in terms of your health and wellness, or maybe your ethnic background, or maybe your whoever you feel your community is, do you think they're represented in biomedical research right now? The reality is most people, the variety of who we are across this country is not well represented in all of biomedical research. It's usually a small type of community that's represented. So if you want your community represented, this is one way to do it. We have a lot of people that say, hey, I want people like me, like my family, to be part of research so that health and wellness for me can be discovered. There's also a chance to learn about additional research opportunities that you're interested in. So there is this back and forth. Again, we have people that are participants that say, hey, can you guys study so-and-so? Who knows? It may come up. And the long-term relationship and what people get back over time will grow and change. So what's in it for the researchers? Well, that's probably the most obvious. The type of data and the volume of data available is unbelievable. But it's the rapidity by which they can actually make research discoveries. That's the most exciting. If you think most research, if you think about it, what happens? Somebody says, I have a question. And then they write out what their hypothesis is. Then they start enrolling participants, and they enroll and they roll and they enroll. It may be 1, 5, 10 years before they've enrolled enough to then study the data. Then they go in there and they start studying the data. Could be 1, 2, 5 years until they can actually do stuff with what they collected. Next thing you know, it's several years down the road. On the other hand, if we build this giant data reservoir for the researchers and build in tools they can use to analyze the data, well, all they have to do now is say, I have a question. Now I have a question. Let me go into that existing giant database and see if I can analyze existing data to answer my question. The time it will take to make healthcare discoveries gets shrunk down. Not only that, the data is already cleaned and curated. In other words, it's in a usable state. We have tools built in, and I'll show you that in a minute, so that what you need are people that have the knowledge base to use the analytical tools to analyze the data that's already there. And the other thing that's come up and is on the bottom bullet, in a group of engaged participants who may be eager to participate in ancillary studies. I'll give you an example. There are people that have already signed up to be in the program. And we know they're interested in this type of research, this type of participation. Now, somebody comes up and says, wow, I want to study how nutrition impacts health and well-being. And we have a study now, that's a nutrition study. And the people that are studying that ancillary study have approached people that have already been in the program and said, hey, we want to have you eat like this, and we want you to eat like this, and we want you to eat like this, and then we want to analyze and see what's better. I'm simplifying it quite a bit, but you can imagine if you have a diverse population, with a controlled type of diet, you might be able to answer the question like, well, not everybody that had diet A did well with it. So what is it about those people that made them either do well with that diet or not do well? Maybe there's something, maybe the famous, and I'm Greek, so maybe that famous Mediterranean diet isn't good for everybody. What if you're Scandinavian? Maybe you don't want to eat a Mediterranean diet. These are the things that when you have this large population of interested people, you can start an ancillary study to learn a very focused question. And you already have a group of engaged participants. So that's something else that's available. And again, opportunity for pilot studies, and I'll show you some of those pilot studies. So we talked about what's in it for the participant, what's in it for the researchers, what's in it for the clinicians, the providers. Over time, we will be able to answer questions using scientific evidence whose discovery was with a shortened time frame, so that we know for the person they are treating, based on who they are, what they are, and what the data has shown us, what's best for them. How do we identify who's at risk? How do we identify how best to treat? How best to guide down best health approach based on what we've learned using this giant data set. So in other words, the doctors we all go to will have scientific evidence for what's best for you. That's the process. This This is why it eventually works its way down to the individual practitioners. People sign up, the science happens, the results come out, and the provider knows what's best for you. So this is an important thing I wanted to put in here, the approach to privacy and security, especially in this day and age. If you're signing up and you have all your data, your medical records in there, your genetics are in there, all this information is in there. A lot of time was spent to make sure the system is as robust it can be for privacy and security. And you can see the bullets there that talk about um, the experts we use, how the data warehouse is protected. We continuously, they hire people to come in and crack your code to figure out where are the vulnerabilities. This happens all the time, and it's what keeps the system safe. But I want to bring your attention to this bullet right here, protected by a certificate of confidentiality. This is a unique agreement between the All of Us research program and the government and government agencies. They cannot use this data. Unlike commercial products, and you've heard, I won't say any names, but as you know in the news, every so often, the FBI or the local authorities crack into data, genetic data, and this and that to deal with crimes, what have you. This data can't be used, period. It is totally protected by this certificate of confidentiality. And that's felt to be very important for people to be able to participate with confidence. If there is a breach, we are committed to full transparency. But so far, so good. And safeguarding is paramount. Your identity and data is paramount in this program. So how are we doing so far? So just as a little plug, the Banner U of A group together, we were one of the first to be given a grant. One of the largest, like I said, ever in the University of Arizona's history. We have been leading our consortium and has been leading the country in its enrollment. We have sites in Colorado and in Arizona and now Wyoming. And this is now for the whole program. There's about 830 now. It's probably more than that as I'm speaking. There's people signing up. This was as of October 3rd. Almost 900,000 people are involved in one way or another with various components. If you see, almost 600,000 have completed the initial steps. Almost 600,000 have sent their biosamples in. Almost 500,000 have their medical records going in. So generally speaking, we're about halfway through trying to reach 1 million for all components of the program. And right now, as you can see, if we want to be representative of all of us, we've got some work to do in the middle of the country. We're pretty good on some of the coasts. And the reason why Arizona, again, is so dark, it's because of all the work our teams are doing here. Our research coordinators are awesome. And I know some of them might be listening, and I know some of them are in the lobby there of the children's clinics. But they are our secret sauce. Our research coordinators are awesome, and they explain the program well and they do a great job of helping people enroll, and we're doing well. The program is trying to put more enrollment sites in the middle of the country. So stay tuned. We're hoping that will eventually grow. Again, how do the discoveries work? People join in, they share their data, the researchers study the data, and then the researchers share that data with the doctors who are taking care of you. It's that straightforward. So how does that happen? So what's the research component? So there is the research projects directory, and any of you can hit that link that says researchallofus.org, and you will go to this opening page, and you can plug in a word, and it'll tell you how many people have that diagnosis that are in the program, how many research projects are going on. So that first layer of information is available to everybody just to see what's in there. If you want to get deeper to use the data, there's certain credentialing process. And if somebody is going to actually use the genetics, there's a clearance process that's used. Not everybody can get that deep. But if somebody wants to just see how many people in the country have diabetes, how many people that are in the program, how many people have, you know, in your case, you're interested in autism, you can go on there, click autism, and you can see how many projects are actually going on. And you can explore the site and see what's out there. Maybe some of you are junior scientists and you want to play with the data a little bit. Maybe you all know high school students that want to do a research project. This first layer of entry is very open. It's only as you get into the more nitty-gritty data that you need a higher level of authorization. So here's just some general scientific opportunities. Developing estimations of risks for different diseases, different exposures, genetic factors. This next one, pharmacogenomics, is fascinating. And I don't know how many of you are aware or have had this done, but based on our genetics, we metabolize drugs differently. How fast we clear them, how fast we may make toxic metabolites, or does it even work for us? You can have a medication that for the same disease, for one person, it does nothing. For another person, it becomes toxic. And for another person, it's just right if you use it the way it's prescribed. It's all based on who we are and how we clear. So what normally happens, you get prescribed a drug, and it's like, oh no, that felt terrible. The doc says, okay, let's try another one. Well, that one didn't do anything. Okay, let's try another one. That one was just right. So you can imagine if we can understand an individual's pharmacogenomics, then maybe we can get you the right drug, the right time from the very beginning, avoid the side effects and avoid any time of ineffective drugs. So the study of pharmacogenomics is fascinating and could be accelerated in this type of program. Biologic markers, you know, we know several genetic markers that are predispositions to cancer, but we're only scraping the surface. Once we have this giant database, we might be able to find biologic markers for way more diseases. Some of them may be common, and we just don't know right now who is at risk and who isn't at risk. Just don't have enough data. Solutions to health disparities. I mentioned that before. We're finding out that various populations are really not identified, treated, or the same as other populations. This is an area of important study. We don't know how the mobile technologies are going to impact. We're going to hopefully figure that out. And again, we can find out how, if we give data back to you, the participant, does your health or wellness get better? It's one of the things that needs to be studied. Here's some examples of studies that are currently going on. There's been over 500 publications already with the data used here. Here's just some examples. Studying cardiovascular risk among sexual and gender minorities, behavioral health needs of people with HIV, studying predictive analytics for glaucoma, studying the Latino epidemiological paradox in the US. That sounds fascinating. A more personalized approach to breast cancer screening. These are just some random studies that we pulled out to show you that this is, and you can see some from New York, from San Diego, from Miami, from Wisconsin. These are investigators across the country that are already using this data. So getting down to what's important to you all, what's happening now with the data that's in there now? Who's doing autism research? Well, here's just some snippets. The phenomic genomic analysis of autism in all of us. So phenomic means how does the autism represent itself to the individual? We can all look a bit different, act a bit different. But how does that look compared to how is the genetics of those individuals? You may have a genetics that looks the same, but the clinical picture look very different. We need to better understand that. This study is going to look at that looking at the underlying risks for how somebody looks, acts, and clinically represents the autism compared to what the genetics are. What are some of the sex differences in autism? And this one's interesting, the multi-ancestry genome-wide association study of autism spectrum disorder. What this study is doing, it's going to look at, when they say genome-wide association studies, that means you're going to look at the entire panel of genetics that's collected and look to see who has been clinically diagnosed with autism and see, is it different amongst those in non-European samples from those from European samples? In other words, a lot of research, a lot of what we do is based on people of European ancestry. And does that hold? It might not even hold when you look at people from different backgrounds. And this is going to try to look at that. Again, I'm trying to look at the underrepresented, ethically diverse populations that may be involved in autism spectrum disorder. So here, this is the latest that's happened. All of Us research program up until now has only been open, sorry, open to those that are 18 years and older. As of a few months ago, it was opened up to kids, and that's an important community. When we talk about people that aren't studied, actually the very young and the very old are rarely involved with research. So being able to incorporate the very old, which we've done quite a bit of here in Arizona, and now enrolled children, we get to get a broader idea of wellness and disease, especially since it may very well be what we are and who we are and how we are when we're little, as has impacted how we are, who we are as adult, because it is a continuum, right? So some of the questions we would try to answer is, these are just some examples. What keeps kids healthy? How come some kids get sick and some kids don't? Ever see that? I got this person. One of my kids is always getting sick. My other kid never gets sick. Why? What are the factors? Is it environmental? Is it how they eat? Is it their genetics? So there's a lot of questions that we just don't know. Again, not only about kids, but also kids and how they are when they become adults. So the current criteria, and we're starting small, it's from birth to 4 that'll be eligible, and they have to have at least one parent who is already in the program. Why is that important? If a parent is in the program, they understand the importance of the program. Makes it easier to say, you can imagine how much more we can learn if we now also have your child. You have to live in the States, and you need to have a parent, obviously, to consent. And they will also have surveys. There'll be some basic surveys. And they'll get a little prize. And, there's we modify what the measurements are. But I don't want to go into detail. Suffice it to say, the pediatric component has opened. And that's why you see those of you that are over at children's clinics right now, you'll see our tabling going on, because we would like to enroll, again, just like in the adults, we need a diverse population, not just culturally, not just ethnically, not just socioeconomically, but also in terms of who they are with disease and wellness. Many kids are underrepresented that we could actually help make discoveries if we can just get them in the program. And if they enrolled and we have 2 enrollment centers in Tucson, and also we're doing it at Phoenix as well. And even though we're doing birth to 4, once they turn 5, they stay in the program. But right now we're only enrolling from birth up until 5. Hopefully, like all participants, they stay in the program on an ongoing basis. So lots of exciting stuff. I'm going to just play this little video, and then I'm going to stop. And I think I wanted to leave 15 minutes for questions. So I think I'm able to do that. Now let's see if I can start this. Well, thought I could do it. Let's take a look. Let me know if you're seeing and hearing.
What lies inside all of us is more than data. It's life. What's flowing through America's veins is its diversity. We ask for 1 million individuals to come forward and stand on this landmark in history. All of us are different, and it's those very differences that will lead to answers for generations to come.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can take some questions. I know that was a little dramatic ending there, wasn't it? But just to highlight who we are and what we're all about. And I think I'll stop here and take some questions or comments.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's really interesting. I'm really excited to go in and look at all those studies that are being done on autism.
Yeah, I recommend, if someone's curious, just go on to the All of Us research program and go to the page where you can look up the data and play around and see if there's diagnoses that you're interested in.
Super cool. I love it. Did anybody have any questions for us, Maria? I don't know if you had any questions about the program.
I can't tell how many people are on, and how many are in person there and how many are online.
Well, everybody's online, so I think we got just one here. That's not what's affiliated with us, so.
Just a few of you, huh?
Yeah, just a few of us. I'm not seeing any questions, though. I must mean you did a really good job. Very
Well, is that Elvia from the program?
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have anything you want to add as one of our stars.
I have been entering the information for those that have joined. I've entered our phone number, our email, some of our social media platform also links. So please feel free to follow us and give us a like. And if you have any questions, our number is on the chat. So, and I will be entering it again for those that joined late. But thank you, Dr. Theodore. It's great. And thank you, Kate, also for allowing us to be part of the Lunch and Learn.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
very grateful for that. Very much appreciate the opportunity. And those of you that are at Children's Clinic, you can go over there and look at our tabling that's going on. Meet our team. Take home a little prize.
Always the best. Good swag. Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it. And we'll make sure to get this posted so everybody can see it too.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Be well. All right. Bye-bye.